After years of high-stakes chases, tense arrests, and life-or-death moments, Rex, a strong and intelligent German shepherd, was finally retired. His muscular frame, once sharp and alert on duty, now moved with a slower, gentler rhythm. His deep, brown eyes, always watchful, softened as he adjusted to a life far removed from flashing sirens and shouting commands. Rex's handler, Officer Mark Phillips, had been by his side through every twist and turn of their careers. Mark had adopted Rex the day he retired from the police force, promising the loyal dog a peaceful life filled with comfort and rest. The pair moved into a modest home, on the outskirts of a small Indiana town quiet, with a big backyard and a view of dense woods. Beyond the fence, it was a place where Mark hoped Rex could finally relax, free from the pressures of police work. For the first few weeks, things went as planned. Rex enjoyed his days lounging on the porch, basking in the sun, and chasing the occasional squirrel. He ate well, played with the children in the neighborhood, and even took leisurely strolls with Mark in the early evenings. The retired dog seemed to embrace the slower pace. Letting go of the edge that had defined him for so long, Mark felt relief washing over him, grateful to see his partner content and safe. But then, as if a shadow slipped through the calm, Rex's behavior began to change. It started subtly. One evening, Mark noticed Rex walking to the back door late at night and scratching at it. The dog's nails tapped rhythmically against the wooden frame, a soft, persistent sound that broke the silence. Mark figured it was nothing, perhaps a desire to go outside or some restlessness. He opened the door, but Rex didn't go out. Instead, the dog sat quietly, staring into the darkness beyond the backyard fence. This scratching became a nightly ritual. At exactly the same time each night, 12:17 a.m. sharp, Rex would stand and walk with purpose to the door. His paw would scratch, first lightly, then more urgently. The sound echoed through the stillness of the house. Mark's curiosity turned to concern. Why would Rex, who had finally settled into retirement, suddenly be so fixated on that door? And why always at the same time? Mark began watching more closely. The scratching wasn't random. Rex's eyes would fix on the dense woods behind the house, ears twitching, nostrils flaring as if trying to catch a scent invisible to humans. There was a tension in his posture, a restless energy that hadn't been there before. Rex was no ordinary pet. He was a veteran of the K9 unit, trained to detect things others could not. His instincts were finely tuned, but what could be out there at this hour that compelled him so? At first, Mark thought maybe Rex was unsettled by the neighborhood, perhaps a raccoon or a stray animal lurking near the fence. But despite his vigilance, Mark found nothing unusual. No movement, no sounds except for the occasional hoot of an owl. Yet Rex remained fixated. One night, Mark tried to sit by the door and watch with him. As the clock ticked toward midnight, Rex padded to the door and began scratching. Mark noticed the dog's gaze was locked on a particular spot beyond the fence, where the thick woods loomed. The moonlight cast eerie shadows on the trees, and a chill ran down Mark's spine. Rex whimpered, softly, a low, plaintive sound that felt like a plea. Mark bent down, resting his hand on Rex's head, but the dog didn't settle. Instead, he scratched faster, his nails scraping urgently at the wood. Mark's mind raced. Could it be anxiety, post-retirement confusion? He decided to call the vet. The next morning for a checkup, perhaps Rex was in pain or feeling sick. The thought of his faithful companion suffering was unbearable. The next day, the vet examined Rex thoroughly. To everyone's surprise, Rex was in perfect health, no arthritis, no injuries, no signs of illness. The vet was baffled but reassured Mark that sometimes older dogs develop quirks. Mark, however, felt this was different. Rex wasn't just scratching. He was trying to communicate. At night, the ritual continued. Day after day, Mark grew more uneasy. It was as if Rex's police instincts, once so vital and sharp, were calling him back to a duty long left behind. The dog wasn't just restless, he was haunted by something unseen, something Mark couldn't yet understand. Mark's mind drifted back to their years on the force. Rex had been more than a partner. He had been a lifeline during some of Mark's darkest moments. They had faced down danger together, solved crimes, and protected innocent lives. But now, in the silence of retirement, Rex's scratching suggested a mystery that had followed him home, one that was about to change their lives forever. Asterisk, the scratching at midnight became a mystery Mark couldn't ignore. Night after night, without fail, Rex would rise from his bed and trot purposefully to the back door. At exactly 12:17 a.m., the dog's nails began tapping on the wood, first softly, then with increasing urgency. Mark watched through the window more than once, wondering what had his loyal companion so unsettled. It wasn't just the timing that disturbed Mark. There was something different about how Rex looked when he scratched, his eyes locked on the darkness beyond the fence, ears pricked forward, nostrils flaring. He seemed alert, tense, almost like a detective on the verge of a breakthrough. But the backyard was quiet, too quiet. Mark's first thought was that Rex might be hearing or smelling something strange. The neighborhood was usually peaceful, but wild animals sometimes roamed near the woods. Maybe a raccoon or a skunk or some nocturnal creature was sneaking around. Yet despite staying up several nights to investigate, Mark never found anything. No rustling leaves, no glowing eyes, just silence. One evening, Mark decided to try calming Rex in new ways. He took him on longer evening walks, hoping the exercise would wear him out. He bought calming treats recommended by the vet and played soft music after bedtime. But nothing changed. Rex's midnight scratching continued like clockwork. Without fail, the dog's behavior began to affect Mark's sleep. He found himself waiting for the scratching, anxious and alert. Sometimes, when Rex scratched, Mark would open the door, only to find his companion sitting silently on the porch, looking out into the blackwoods beyond. The woods were dense, thick with shadows and tangled branches and impenetrable darkness that Mark felt wary of. But Rex seemed drawn to it, as if he could see something hidden within. On one cold night, Mark sat beside the door, his breath fogging. In the chill air, the clock in the living room ticked toward midnight, then finally stopped at 12:17 a.m. Rex rose quietly, his muscles taut, and went to the door. His nails began to tap insistently, his eyes burning with a strange light. Then, Rex let out a low, anxious whine. Mark's heart pounded. He reached out to pet the dog, hoping to soothe him, but Rex's gaze never left the woods. Mark's mind raced. What could be out there that only Rex sensed? What was the dog trying to tell him? The following morning, Mark shared his concerns with his neighbor Helen, who had lived in the area for decades. She listened carefully, then mentioned a long-forgotten story. Those woods, Helen said quietly, used to belong to a man named Carl Whitaker. He disappeared about 12 years ago, never found. No clues, just gone. Folks around here don't talk much about it, but there's a lot of whispers. Some say the land still holds secrets. Mark felt a chill run down his spine. Could Rex be sensing something connected to that old mystery? The idea seemed crazy after all. Rex had never worked on that case, but the dog's behavior was too focused, too deliberate, to be random. That night, Mark watched Rex again. This time, the dog didn't just scratch the door, he pawed at it, whined, and stared deeper into the woods, his body trembling slightly. Mark's curiosity grew into determination. He knew that Rex wasn't just scratching because of boredom or anxiety. The dog's canine instincts were screaming at him. Mark made a decision. The next time Rex scratched the door, he would open it and let Rex lead him to whatever lay beyond. For a moment, Mark doubted himself. Was it safe? What if there was something dangerous in those woods? Yet he also trusted Rex. This dog had saved lives, sniffed out explosives, and faced down armed criminals. Rex had never been wrong. The midnight hour arrived again. Rex stood by the door, scratching, whining, eyes blazing. Mark's hand trembled as he reached for the lock. The door creaked open. Cold night air rushing inside. Rex bolted outside, nose to the ground, tail high with purpose. Mark followed, flashlight in hand, heart racing. The dog led him toward a part of the woods Mark had never explored before, a thick, tangled area where the moonlight barely touched. Suddenly, Rex stopped, his body stiffening. Then he started digging fast and furious, pawing at the earth. With desperate urgency, dirt flew everywhere. Mark knelt down beside him, breath visible in the chilly air. "What is it, boy? What did you find?" Rex continued to dig. Whimpering softly, Mark's flashlight caught a glinted dark object buried beneath the leaves and soil. His heart pounded in his chest. Could this be the answer Rex had been searching for all along? The cold night air hung heavy as Mark and Rex crouched over the freshly disturbed earth. Rex's paws moved with determination, tearing through leaves and soil. Uncovering something solid beneath, Mark's flashlight revealed a dark shape partly buried, partially hidden by years of decay and nature's slow reclaiming. Mark's pulse quickened. What had Rex found? Could this be connected to the mysterious disappearance of Carl Whitaker, the man who vanished over a decade ago? As Rex pawed and scratched, Mark carefully reached down and brushed aside dirt and dead leaves, revealing a battered, water-stained duffel bag. The zipper was rusted but intact. Mark's hands trembled slightly as he unzipped it. Inside were items that made his stomach twist: old papers, a pair of worn shoes, and something wrapped in cloth. Mark pulled the bundle out and, with growing dread, saw what it was: human remains, fragile and weathered by time. He swallowed hard and reached for his phone to call the local police. Rex sat quietly beside him, panting softly, as if he understood the gravity of the moment. Mark felt a mix of disbelief and awe. How had Rex, now retired and far removed from active duty, picked up on the scent of something hidden for so many years? The dog's keen nose, trained for countless searches and rescues, had led them to a discovery that had eluded investigators for over a decade. The local authorities arrived quickly, alerted by Mark's urgent call. Forensics specialists and detectives combed the site, meticulously gathering evidence and carefully removing the remains and the duffel bag. News of the discovery spread through the small town like wildfire. It was clear Rex had uncovered a cold case, bringing a missing person's story back to life. Mark couldn't stop thinking about how Rex had behaved all those nights, how the dog had scratched the door at exactly the same time with an urgency that now made sense. Rex's instincts, honed over years of police training, had never truly retired. The dog's restless nights weren't random. They were a silent call to action, a desperate attempt to communicate what no one else could see. The police soon confirmed that the remains belonged to Carl Whitaker. DNA testing sealed the truth. The man's disappearance, which had haunted the town for years, was finally solved, thanks to a retired police dog and his unwavering loyalty. Mark found himself overwhelmed by emotions: pride for Rex, gratitude for the dog's incredible senses, and a deep sadness for the tragedy that had taken so long to uncover. The discovery gave a glimmer of hope to Carl's family, who had spent years searching for answers. Experts later explained that Rex's behavior was an extraordinary example of a veteran canine's instinct. Even though Rex had never worked directly on Whitaker's case, his nose had retained the faint, lingering scent and imprint in his memory that refused to fade. Dogs are known for their remarkable olfactory abilities, but Rex's case was unique. It showed that some bonds run deeper than training, connecting dogs to the mysteries and memories of their past. Mark also realized that Rex's scratching was more than a habit. It was a message, a form of communication born out of frustration and determination. In his own way, Rex had been begging Mark to listen, to trust him, and to follow where the scent led. In the weeks that followed, Rex seemed to relax. The scratching stopped. Mark sensed that his loyal companion had found peace at last, having fulfilled a mission no one expected. Rex had not just been a partner in life and law enforcement, but had become a hero in retirement, carrying the weight of justice on his paws. The town began to celebrate Rex's remarkable discovery. Articles appeared in newspapers, local news stations interviewed Mark, and social media buzzed with admiration for the dog who refused to rest. Rex became a symbol of loyalty, persistence, and the incredible power of a dog's instinct. Mark often looked at Rex with newfound respect. The dog who had once chased down criminals now had helped solve a mystery that no human had cracked. Their bond, forged in years of service, had grown even stronger through this unexpected journey. Mark knew one thing for sure: retirement might have meant an end to Rex's official duties, but it had never ended his purpose. The dog's silent scratches had told a story of truth, justice, and unbreakable loyalty. And that story had only just begun, asterisk with the discovery still fresh. Mark found himself drawn deeper into the history of the land behind his house, and the mystery it concealed. The thick woods where Rex had dug were no ordinary patch of trees. They held a dark secret, one that had long haunted the community. Mark's curiosity quickly turned into an obsession as he sought to understand the full story behind Carl Whitaker's disappearance and why Rex's instincts had led them there. Mark visited the local library, scanning through old newspaper clippings and police reports dating back more than a decade. Carl Whitaker was a quiet man, known mostly to neighbors as reclusive and somewhat mysterious. 12 years ago, he had simply vanished one evening, leaving behind an empty house and no clear motive for his disappearance. Despite numerous searches and investigations, no trace had ever been found until Rex's late-night scratches cracked the case wide open. As Mark read through the records, he uncovered rumors of tension between Carl and some local figures, whispered stories about disputes over land and money. Carl had owned the woods where Rex had led him, but the property had changed hands multiple times since his disappearance. Some locals suggested Carl had enemies, but no one had concrete evidence. The mystery deepened. Why would Rex, a dog who never worked that case, sense something buried beneath the earth? Was it simply his trained nose picking up a faint scent? Or was there something more, a connection between Rex's past work and this land that tied them together in unexpected ways? Mark reached out to retired detectives who had worked on the Whitaker case. Their memories were faded but full of frustration. The case had grown cold quickly, overshadowed by other crimes and forgotten by the passage of time. They expressed amazement that a retired dog had now uncovered what human eyes and technology had missed for years. One detective, Frank Daniels, told Mark something that stuck. Dogs don't just follow scents, they follow memories. Rex might have picked up something left behind, a silent echo of the past that refused to disappear. This idea haunted Mark. Rex's instincts were not random. They were guided by years of training and a connection to the unseen. The dog's midnight scratches were more than habit, they were a call for justice that only Mark could answer. At home, Mark began spending more time near the woods, walking with Rex during the day, retracing the path the dog had taken that night. The trees seemed to whisper secrets, their shadows thick with stories waiting to be uncovered. Mark wondered what Carl's life had been like in those woods. What fears or dangers had driven him to vanish without a trace? Neighbors told Mark that Carl had been a solitary man, but not a violent one. They speculated about what might have happened in those final days. Had Carl stumbled upon something he shouldn't have? Had he been silenced? The questions multiplied, but answers remained elusive. Meanwhile, Rex's scratching had ceased. The dog now rested peacefully, content in the knowledge that he had led Mark to the truth. It was as if the restless spirit of the woods had finally been appeased. Mark realized that Rex's role was not just to protect and serve during his active years, but to carry the burden of justice. Even in retirement, the town began to heal, slowly finding closure in the wake of the discovery. Carl Whitaker's family, finally able to mourn with some measure of certainty, reached out to thank Mark and Rex. The emotional reunion was a poignant moment, underscoring the impact of Rex's extraordinary instincts and Mark's unwavering faith in his loyal companion. Mark also felt a new responsibility to honor Rex's gift and the legacy of the K9 unit. He shared their story with local schools and community groups, emphasizing the unique bond between handler and dog, and how loyalty transcends duty. As days turned into weeks, the case of Carl Whitaker became more than just a solved mystery. It became a symbol of hope, perseverance, and the unspoken power of trust. Rex had shown that sometimes the answers lie not in high-tech equipment or years of detective work, but in the quiet determination of a dog's instinct. Mark often reflected on that chilling night, the scratching, and the moment Rex had led him into the woods. He knew that beyond the shadows and secrets, there was a deeper truth about loyalty and purpose. Rex hadn't just scratched a door, he had scratched at the walls of the past, breaking through silence to bring peace to a long-forgotten soul. And with that, the story was far from over. The night air was crisp and heavy with silence as Mark stood beside Rex, watching his loyal dog dig furiously beneath the pile of leaves and dirt. The flashlight flickered in Mark's trembling hand, casting eerie shadows among the twisted branches and thick undergrowth of the woods behind their home. Rex's paws moved with relentless energy, clawing deeper and deeper as if guided by a force beyond the physical. Mark felt his heartbeat quicken. After weeks of restless nights and unanswered questions, this moment felt like the climax of a long, painful mystery. The duffel bag that Rex uncovered was more than just a container. It was a silent witness to a story that had been buried for years. Police officers arrived at the scene just as dawn broke, their faces a mix of solemnity and disbelief. The discovery was unprecedented. Human remains carefully concealed beneath layers of soil and leaves, hidden away in a place no one had dared to search thoroughly before. The evidence Mark had found was the missing piece in a puzzle that had haunted the town for over a decade. The investigators moved methodically, documenting the scene with forensic precision. Mark watched from the sidelines, the weight of what Rex had accomplished sinking in. This was not just a dog's intuition, it was a beacon of truth, shining through the darkness of forgotten years. News of the discovery spread quickly through the community and beyond. Local news outlets reported on the breakthrough, and soon national media picked up the story of the retired police dog who had cracked an unsolved case. Headlines praised Rex as a hero, a symbol of loyalty and courage even in retirement. For Mark, the attention was overwhelming. Yet, amid the acclaim, he felt a profound gratitude for the dog who had once been his partner in crime fighting, and now stood as a guardian of justice in a different way. Rex had never truly retired. His duty was etched deep in his instincts, his sense of purpose unshaken by the passing years. In the following days, the police confirmed that the remains were indeed those of Carl Whitaker, the man who had vanished without a trace 12 years earlier. The news brought a mix of relief and sorrow to the community. Carl's family, who had spent years hoping and praying for answers, finally received the closure they desperately needed. Mark was invited to meet with Carl's relatives, a quiet and somber gathering that underscored the gravity of the discovery. Tears were shed, stories were shared, and gratitude was expressed for Rex's incredible role in unveiling the truth. The dog, ever calm and composed, seemed to understand the significance of his actions. That as the investigation progressed, new details emerged about Carl's disappearance. Evidence suggested foul play, confirming suspicions long held by some but never proven. The duffel bag contained more than personal items. It held clues that helped reopen the cold case and bring renewed attention to the circumstances surrounding Carl's fate. Mark often found himself reflecting on Rex's journey from an active police dog to a retired companion with a restless spirit. It was clear that Rex's instincts had never dulled. The dog's nightly scratches at the door were not random. They were a cry for justice, a call to uncover what had been buried and forgotten. Rex's story inspired many law enforcement officers, dog lovers, and ordinary citizens alike. It highlighted the unique bond between handler and canine, a partnership forged in trust, loyalty, and shared purpose. Rex's ability to sense what others could not was a testament to the power of dedication and intuition. Mark continued to care for Rex with deep respect, recognizing the dog's unwavering commitment. Though retired, Rex remained vigilant, a guardian whose silent scratches spoke louder than words. The discovery in the woods was not just a victory over time, it was a reminder that some heroes never truly rest. As the community healed, Mark and Rex became symbols of hope and resilience. Their story traveled far beyond the small Indiana town, touching hearts and inspiring belief in the unexpected ways justice can be served. Rex's legacy was more than a solved case. It was a testament to the enduring spirit of loyalty and the silent courage of a dog who refused to give up. And as Mark looked at Rex, peaceful now beside the fire, he knew the dog's journey was far from over. The scratches at the door had revealed the truth, but they had also opened a new chapter, one where the bond between man and dog continued to protect, to serve, and to inspire. After the shocking discovery in the woods, the police investigation into Carl Whitaker's disappearance reignited with fresh vigor. Mark found himself drawn deeper into the mystery, no longer just as Rex's handler, but as a man desperate to understand the truth behind the decades-old secrets that had haunted the town. Every detail mattered now. Detectives pored over the evidence found in the duffel bag and around the burial site. Among the tattered papers was a handwritten letter, faded and water-damaged, but still legible. It hinted at a dispute Carl had with a local land developer, a man known for ruthless tactics to expand his property. This new lead gave the case a sharp edge, transforming it from a cold, unsolved disappearance to a story of possible greed and betrayal. Mark attended meetings with the detectives, offering what insight he could from his years as a police officer and sharing Rex's remarkable discovery. The retired dog had sparked a chain reaction, awakening a community that had nearly forgotten the man who disappeared without a trace. As the investigation unfolded, Mark noticed a change in Rex. The dog's scratching at the door had stopped, replaced instead by a calm vigilance. Rex still patrolled the backyard, alert and watchful, but the restlessness had lifted. It was as if the dog sensed the mission was no longer his alone, that the pieces were finally coming together. One afternoon, Mark received a call from Detective Frank Daniels, the veteran cop who had once worked the Whitaker case. "Mark, we've got something," Frank said, his voice low but urgent. "A witness has come forward, someone who remembers seeing Carl the night he vanished." Mark's heart raced. The witness was a local logger who worked near the woods. He recalled seeing a heated confrontation between Carl and a man named James Calder, the land developer named in the letter. Witness accounts suggested that the argument had turned violent, and that Calder might have had a motive for silencing Carl. The pieces fit together chillingly. Carl Whitaker had been standing up for his land, trying to protect what was rightfully his, while Calder sought to expand his empire at any cost. The confrontation had ended in tragedy, buried deep beneath the earth, hidden away for years until Rex's relentless paws brought it to light. Mark felt a mix of anger and sorrow. Justice had been delayed, but it was finally within reach. The town needed closure not just for Carl's family, but for the truth to be known. As the case moved toward charges against Calder, Mark reflected on the incredible role Rex had played. It wasn't just luck or coincidence, it was a testament to the bond between a man and his dog, and the unyielding spirit that guided them both. That night, Mark sat by the fire with Rex resting at his feet. The dog's eyes reflected the flickering flames, calm and wise. Mark reached down to scratch behind Rex's ears, feeling the familiar warmth and strength of his companion. "You did good, boy," Mark whispered. "You never gave up." Rex thumped his tail softly in response, his silent way of saying he understood. The story of Rex and the discovery spread beyond the town, touching hearts across the country. It became more than a tale of a missing man. It was a reminder of the extraordinary bond between humans and dogs, and how sometimes the smallest clues can unlock the deepest secrets. Mark continued to speak publicly about Rex's story, sharing how trust, patience, and intuition had changed everything. He emphasized the importance of listening to the silent messages like the midnight scratches that often go unnoticed. For Mark and Rex, life settled into a new rhythm. The dog enjoyed peaceful days and restful nights, while Mark embraced the quiet satisfaction of justice served. But the bond between them, forged in years of partnership and now deepened by an extraordinary journey, remained unbreakable. Mark knew that Rex's legacy would endure not just as a retired police dog, but as a hero who uncovered a hidden truth and brought peace to a restless soul. The scratches at the door had revealed more than a secret. They had uncovered a story of loyalty, courage, and the power of never giving up. And for Mark and Rex, the story was far from over. As the investigation moved forward, the town braced for a trial that would finally bring justice to Carl Whitaker's memory. The evidence uncovered by Rex and Mark had shaken the foundations of the community, revealing a web of greed, deceit, and a cover-up that had lasted for over a decade. James Calder, the land developer, was arrested and charged with manslaughter and obstruction of justice. The trial became a focal point not only for the local news, but for everyone touched by the case. Mark was called to testify, sharing the incredible story of how Rex led him to the buried remains and how the dog's instincts had uncovered long-hidden truths. Courtroom days were tense. Calder's defense team fought fiercely, attempting to discredit witnesses and evidence, but the weight of the discovery was undeniable. The letter, the witness accounts, and the physical evidence combined to form a compelling narrative that painted Calder as a man desperate to silence Carl to gain control of the land. Mark found himself back in the spotlight, recounting the nights Rex scratched the door and the moment the dog dug beneath the earth. He described Rex's loyalty and determination, the kind that goes beyond training and into something deeply instinctual. Rex, ever calm and composed, sat quietly beside Mark. During the testimony, the dog's presence seemed to remind everyone in the courtroom of the powerful bond between handler and canine, an unspoken partnership that had changed the course of justice. Outside the courtroom, the community rallied around Carl's family. People shared stories of Carl's kindness and resilience, remembering the man who had stood firm against injustice. The trial was more than a legal battle, it was a healing process, an opportunity for closure and acknowledgement. When the verdict finally came, the courtroom fell silent. Calder was found guilty. Justice, long delayed, had finally arrived for Carl's family. The verdict was bittersweet relief mixed with sorrow for the years lost and the pain endured. Mark and Rex attended the sentencing, standing with the family as the judge spoke. The moment was solemn but meaningful, a testament to the power of truth and the enduring spirit of those who refused to let silence win. In the weeks that followed, the town began to heal. Memorials were held in Carl's honor, and the woods where he was found were dedicated as a protected area, a place of remembrance and peace. Mark often visited with Rex, walking the trails and feeling a deep connection to the land and the man whose story had finally been told. Rex, now hailed as a hero, enjoyed a quieter life. The scratches at the door ceased completely, replaced by a calm contentment. Mark noticed the dog's eyes held a softer light and unspoken peace that comes from a mission fulfilled. The story of the retired police dog who solved a cold case inspired many law enforcement agencies reached out to Mark, curious about Rex's remarkable instincts and how retired K9 South might still contribute. Rex became a symbol of hope, proving that even in retirement, a dog's loyalty and skills can shine brightest when least expected. Mark, deeply proud but humble, continued to care for Rex with the love and respect their partnership deserved. The dog had given so much years of service, protection, and now a final gift that changed lives. Their bond was a reminder that heroes come in many forms. Sometimes they wear badges and uniforms. Other times they come on for pause, silent but steadfast. As Mark sat on his porch one evening, watching Rex sleep peacefully at his feet, he reflected on the journey they had traveled together, from the tense nights filled with scratching to the revelation that shook a town. Their story was one of perseverance, trust, and the unbreakable bond between a man and his dog. The scratches at the door had once been a mystery, a silent cry for help. Now they were a memory, a symbol of hope, courage, and justice served. And for Mark and Rex, life moved forward, quiet but meaningful, filled with the kind of peace only earned through loyalty and love. The quiet evenings at Mark's home had taken on a new meaning. Rex, once restless and scratching at the door night after night, now rested peacefully, his mission fulfilled. But the impact of their extraordinary journey rippled far beyond the boundaries of the small Indiana town. What began as a retired police dog's strange habit had blossomed into a story that inspired a nation, proving that loyalty and instinct are forces to be reckoned with no matter the age or title. Mark often sat on his porch with Rex by his side, watching the sun dip below the horizon. Their bond, forged through years of service and now solidified by a shared triumph, was unshakable. The scratches at the door were no longer a mystery. They were a symbol of the courage and determination that had changed lives. The community held a ceremony in honor of Rex's heroism. Townspeople, police officers, and local leaders gathered to celebrate the dog who had given so much even in retirement. Mark gave a heartfelt speech about trust, teamwork, and the extraordinary bond between humans and their canine partners, Rex reminded us that sometimes the quietest signals hold the loudest truths, Mark said. His instincts led us to a story that needed to be told, to justice that had waited too long. The ceremony also marked a new chapter for Rex. The town created a special foundation, in his name a fund dedicated to supporting retired police, dogs and their handlers, ensuring that these loyal animals receive the care and respect they deserve after years of service. Mark and Rex were invited to schools, community centers, and police academies to share their story. Children listened wide-eyed as Mark described how Rex's scratching at the door wasn't just a habit. It was a call to action, a silent plea for help that no one ignored. The story touched hearts and inspired many to look deeper at the bonds we share with animals, the silent language of love and loyalty that often goes unnoticed. For Mark, the experience transformed his view of retirement. He realized that service doesn't end when the uniform comes off, or when the badge is retired. Sometimes, the most important work happens quietly in the shadows, guided by instincts and a heart that never stops caring. Rex, now enjoying his golden years, continued to be a beacon of hope. Mark noticed that the dog's eyes still held that spark, the spark of a hero who had done the impossible. Their quiet walks were filled with peace, but the legacy they built was loud and clear. The story of Rex and Mark traveled beyond their small town, reaching national audiences who marveled at the power of a dog's instincts and a man's faith in his partner. Documentaries were made, articles published, and the tale became a testament to what loyalty and persistence can achieve. Mark knew that while Rex's scratching had stopped, their journey was far from over. Together, they had uncovered a truth that changed lives and inspired hope, and that was a story worth telling again and again. In the end, it wasn't just about a retired police dog scratching at a door. It was about listening to the silent signals, to the quiet hearts, and to the unspoken bonds that bind us all. Mark looked down at Rex, who gazed up at him with calm, trusting eyes. "We did good, boy," he whispered, his voice full of gratitude. Rex thumped his tail softly, a final affirmation of the loyalty that had carried them through the darkest nights, to the light of justice. And so, the retired police dog who scratched the door every night left behind a legacy that stunned a nation, a legacy of courage, love, and the unbreakable bond between man and dog.